Hello, my name is Shane Brodie. I've been traveling around the country talking to trans people, non-binary people, gender non-conforming, intersex, also some parents and allies having to do with the trans community in some way. And today I am in a western state, and it's pretty great here. We're in a nice little library, study room, and I have a couple of guests here, one of whom is going to be pixelated, and they are going to introduce themselves.
I'm Mike, and this is...
I'm Moss.
Right, so...
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Absolutely. I'm Moss's dad. I'm in my mid-60s. Why is that funny?
I'm in my 50s, by the way.
Yeah, so I'm the oldest person here, but not by much.
That's right.
Yeah, so thank you, Shane. I appreciate that.
I have some white here, and you have some gray and some white.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So, so Shane asked us if we would be interested in being interviewed, and we agreed to come and talk because we have Moss is trans. I'm just me. I'm cis, or I think of myself as hetero because I've not really figured out what cis is yet.
Okay.
Oh,
But
God.
so that's so funny, isn't it, Moss?
Well, if you could define that for us later, that would probably be good.
Yeah. And so since the state that we're in has recently passed what we think of as some pretty anti-trans and anti-drag and sort of this excluding legislation that they've passed, which we spent a lot of time fighting against and actually going to the Capitol and talking with senators and representatives and in protest up there. Moss is sticking their tongue out because it was disgusting. It really was. There's nothing.
You actually talked one-on-one with legislators.
Yes,
Wow.
we did talk with
Okay.
those. It wasn't unfortunate. See, I disagree with that because I think it helps. Even though it didn't change anything.
It was unfortunate to have to listen to them talk.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that must be hard to talk to somebody that you know is trying to harm you or take away your rights.
Yeah, talk a little bit about your feelings about that, please. And then I'm going to say something about what I felt, but...
Okay. Well, it was just kind of annoying. Because they always have, like, this smug look on their face, and they're like, oh, I'm doing what's best for the children, which they're really not. I have a lot of trans friends, and I'm 16 myself, so I have seen the effects of this on people, and it's really, like, depressing, because I've had to listen to a lot of my friends cry over stuff like this, so it's just... makes me really mad at these people because they want to do this holier than thou thing, and I'm like, you are actually affecting real people, and the suicide rate goes up when all this stuff starts happening, so it's not great.
Yeah, it's interesting that these bills are targeting children first.
Yes.
And arguably the most vulnerable children in the United States. So it's really strange what we're doing right now.
Yeah, in our state, it's data is ignored, medical opinion is ignored,
right.
The opinion of medical associations is ignored for this agenda, which is not, in fact, an Oklahoma. Whoops. I just said our state, but anyway, it's not an Oklahoma. It's not an Oklahoma-centric thing. This is It's cookie-cutter legislation that somebody came up with and started sending to these representatives and these senators.
It does seem that way.
Yeah.
It seems like states are kind of just following along.
Yeah.
Like Alaska recently did the same thing.
Oh, Alaska?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So it was frustrating to say the least, and infuriating at times. There was one day that Moss and I were sitting up in the gallery in the House of Representatives, and you know what I'm going to talk about, don't you?
Okay.
And
Here we
one
go.
of the representatives that was there started talking about the causes of transgenderism as if they know, right?
Okay,
as if these guys know.
Right.
As if anybody is really clear on that. Even neuroscientists are still researching this and kind of trying to figure it out, and they're scientists, they're not politicians. So they actually, that's their job. The job of the politicians apparently to make asses of themselves. But
well, so, technically they're supposed to represent people and particularly people who come and talk to them, I would think.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And in fact, the representative who authored one of the bills that actually didn't get passed, but it was a House bill, and he was our representative from our community.
Okay.
And so that's how we ended up talking to him. But one of the other representatives was speaking this day. They were in debate, and he said that transgenderism is caused by kids having poor relationships with their fathers. And of course, Moss and I are sitting there together in the gallery.
Right.
And we both started, Moss looked at me and I looked at Moss, and we both started laughing. And I laughed so loudly that one of the marshals, ushers, whatever they are, that they have there had to come by and shush me.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So,
well, and I got to say, you sound like you're from Oklahoma. Like, you sound like you're very much from this region.
Yeah, I am. I've spent my entire adult life here. I was raised in Texas and Oklahoma, born in Montana, raised in Texas and Oklahoma. So I'm a native here, you know, and it's so strange because we think of ourselves in this state as setting we talk about the Oklahoma Standard, which was a thing that really came to be in the wake of the 1995 Murrah building bombing,
right.
And the way that we take care of each other, and that's been lost.
So a sense of community has been lost.
Absolutely. That sense of community for our community, at least. And one of the cool things about going to these protests and showing up at the Capitol is you walk up into this crowd, and we didn't know any of these people. The first time we showed up, we didn't know a soul.
Yeah.
And but it was, we were immediately surrounded by friends.
Okay. So before this, you hadn't really socialized with other trans people, etc. You weren't really part of that community.
Right. Not as much. Now more since then.
Okay.
There are some activities in Oklahoma because we had started going to Queer Joy picnics. That's a little organization in Oklahoma, and they sponsor picnics and activities, and we'd started going to that last summer.
Okay.
And had some friends there. Yeah, the sense of community has been disrupted.
Yeah. And that affects everybody, I would think. Right?
I hope it does.
Yeah.
I hope it affects every person in Oklahoma. I hope they understand they come to understand the environment they've created here.
Right.
This is I said this to somebody not long ago, and they argued with me about it, but this is how things started in Nazi Germany.
Sure.
In the 30s.
Well, not even thinking about the actual group that's being targeted, right? But if we think of any group that the state is going to come down and take rights away from, any group, it can be any group.
And it will
That's
be.
a problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
Like healthcare and basic public accommodation. All these things.
Yeah.
Being able to change your legal documents. All these things are really a big deal.
Well, it's like that little prose poem, and I can't remember it word for word, but it said first they came for the Catholics,
right?
And I didn't speak up, and then they came for these people, I didn't speak up, and then they eventually finally came for me, and there was nobody left to speak up.
Right.
So, and I think that's what I fear we have happening here.
Have you had much contact with other parents of trans youth?
We have had some. We have had some. And in fact, we have a representative in the House of Representatives whose son is trans.
Oh.
And so he's done a really good job of speaking up and fighting against this. And we've met some allies there in the House of Representatives. But they're very much in the minority.
Yeah.
We have a Republican-controlled Senate. We have a Republican-controlled House
Okay.
in our state.
So it sounds like it's very easy to pass things here. Like,
Oh my gosh!
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, no matter how loud we protest, the votes are the votes.
And what is the status right now of particular bills? Do you happen to know, or should
Oh,
we take a break and look that up?
We actually know. We know.
You know, okay.
Senate Bill 613,
Okay.
which is the bill that outlaws gender-affirming care for minors,
Okay.
has been passed and been signed into law by the
Okay.
governors.
Yeah.
Or by the governor, our governor. His name is Kevin Stitt. His name is Kevin Stitt.
Yeah. In other interviews, people don't even want to mention this person's name. So
Yeah.
he's not well liked in some corners. Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, a lot of politicians that I've known are really aggressive, even if they seem like nice. So if you couple that with wanting to hurt other people, it's like sociopathic. You know?
Yeah, and I don't think sociopathic is too strong a word.
No, I don't think so at all.
And-
Because they're very like attention, and control.
Yeah,
you know?
So, the narcissistic,
Yeah.
very much.
Oh, yeah.
But I see that a lot with politicians anyway. So
Sending
anyway.
back form letters for, you give your heart and you're like, hey, this is affecting my life, and then you just get a form letter back that
So
has
I
nothing to do
should
with it.
forward you some stuff because
Okay.
I actually wrote one of the authors of the original legislation
Okay.
that we were protesting.
Olson, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Jim Olson, and he's a representative here in our state.
Okay.
We've spoken to
we
him.
had spoken with
When we
him.
talked to Kevin West, we talked to him.
Yeah, when we first talked with our representative who had supposedly authored this bill. Now, and understanding that the bill is sort of a fill in the blanks bill,
Sure.
right? Put the name of your state in these spots,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And as we were talking with him, this other guy comes up behind us, and what I said was to him, "Hey, your reasoning is BS." I didn't say bullshit because that wouldn't be nice, but I just said this is BS because that was the first time we heard that trans kids don't have good relationships with their parents, right, or with their fathers specifically, and so I said that's BS, that's not right, and he said, well, we don't mean that for everybody, and I said it's a bad generalization, right, and your data that you're quoting is not correct either. They just, it was clear that they had not researched the whole thing well, right? And I don't think they really researched anything. I think they just kind of went off of what they thought.
So they weren't going off of the medical associations and that sort of thing. They were just
oh my gosh, no.
opinion.
Right,
Therapy.
No. If they were going, this legislation never would have been introduced if they were paying attention to the American Pediatric or the American College of Pediatrics or the American Medical Association. Both of those associations say gender affirming care is the right thing to do, right?
Speaking of that, have you seen them active in this fight against these bills
in
at all?
Oklahoma?
No. Okay.
No.
Right.
That's part of our problem in Oklahoma is we have one major healthcare system that has just rolled over.
Is it a religious-based system, by the way? Or
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It actually is the University of Oklahoma.
Okay.
So
Wow.
they just rolled over, but
So
it's
public system. Wow.
Yeah, it's most unfortunate. And then nobody else is standing up to fight. The Oklahoma Hospital Association, I actually know people over there and had sent them an email and never got a response.
So you know them personally, and they didn't even respond?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So
that's terrible because, I mean, that means that they're not listening to their neighbor, basically.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
And, people that they're acquainted with. I mean, people. I think it's easier to not listen if you can't put a face to a name.
Right.
But when you know somebody,
Right.
and they express their concerns, and you don't feel inclined to even respond to that, it points to either the ability to sort of depersonalize that individual, or to just feeling so guilty that you can't respond.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's
guess.
that too.
Yeah.
And this is kind of in terms of population, a smaller state too. So it seems like people would kind of know each other, if only by reputation, maybe. But
Right. And,
Alaska's like that too. Everybody kind of knows each other in a way.
oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine what Wyoming's like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Small states.
Yeah. So anyway, when we were talking with Kevin West, Jim Olson came up behind him and said, because I was mentioning some studies that I had read.
Yeah.
And I was like, this study points to this. This study points to this. Olson walks up and says, yeah, but do you have any longitudinal studies? Do you have anything that's really over the long term? Because I've got a 30-year study that we're basing this off of. And I was like, oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll send it to you. And that was his way of disengaging him and Kevin West.
Sure.
And so they turned and scurried back to their little hidey holes, right?
And the weird thing is they didn't have Dad's email.
Yeah, of course they
didn't have anything to send it to him with.
They didn't have a way to contact me. So we went up about a week later, and I left my business card in everybody's office that was connected with this, right?
Sure.
And I was like, I want to talk to you guys.
Yeah, because it's a desperate situation.
Yeah. And so, and I spoke with Olson's assistant, and she agreed to have Representative Olson contact me. And so he sent me this really badly written email that was, not just not good with the content, but like the fonts were mixed up and stuff.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of like,
yeah, that sometimes happens with a cut and paste.
what grade are you in?
Yeah. Sure.
So anyway, I got that, and so I started researching, and I sent him a response that was a little bit longer than his original email, and it basically said, I'm not sure how you research this, but A, your citations aren't correct. You're not even citing them correctly. B, you're taking stuff out of context. You're saying it says one thing when actually the authors of these papers drew an entirely different conclusion from what you're saying. You're using guidance from organizations that are actually pro-gender affirming care as a reason to not provide that care.
Right.
Your entire thing just doesn't make your platform doesn't make any sense. Never heard a word back.
Right.
Of course. So, and I'll send that to you if you want to read it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was wondering what you think about all this. Like, we talked a little bit about, you have been dealing with friends of yours who are, feeling bad about the situation. How about you yourself? You have obviously a very, very caring parents. How are you dealing with this?
I just try not to think about it, honestly. Okay. Mostly I've just been trying to be there for friends, and I've been really scared for my friends, and especially because, the violence towards trans people is increasing.
Is it? Okay.
I've asked my dad to get pepper spray for a couple of my trans friends. And
is that like in a school environment or?
It was actually friends who are homeschooled, but they're out a lot, and my girlfriend does drag, and obviously that's.
So no, tell me about that.
The drag?
Yeah.
So we've had some anti-drag bills that have been.
Yeah, they passed one anti-drag bill, so I'm not sure what that's going to do to drag performances in Oklahoma.
I've heard that it might also affect the music business in general.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, because a lot of rockers, for instance, will kind of cross-dress. Let's put that in quotes.
It affects it's such a vaguely written bill that it literally could affect, Dolly Parton can't come here anymore because of because they said exaggerated feminization, and she's all glitz and glamour. That's right. Sorry, Oklahoma, your favorite.
How about Beyonce? Is she welcome here?
I don't know. Nobody knows what the
There's a lot of dancing going on.
Yeah.
Are they going to outlaw dancing now?
Possibly.
Well, actually, the Baptist Church already did that, but that's been
That's
true
that
for a
movie,
long time.
Footloose, right?
Right. Yeah, but if you think about Gilbert and Sullivan operas.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Right.
You can't
Right.
perform those here now.
Right.
Not cast correctly,
Sure.
at least.
Or Shakespeare.
I'm
or,
in Newsies right now, and half of the cast is playing a gender opposite of what they are because, we don't have enough boys for
Sure.
Newsies. So, like, is our musical illegal now?
Right. That's so weird.
Yeah.
I know, it's so weird.
It's just, and they don't, these politicians don't think about that stuff. They don't think about the art. They don't think about the cultural influence that is a part of the drag culture or a part of the trans culture. It really seems like an effort to just run anybody that's not conforming
Yeah.
with that hetero stereotype,
Yeah.
smooth the fuck out of the state.
Well, also, I mean, cisgendered women as well
Yeah.
are being affected, obviously, by this whole suite of laws that are coming through about abortion. It's kind of a whole deal that's going on. It's, and it will affect everybody. It will affect cisgendered people and straight people as well. So let's take a break for a second and regroup. Okay, so after talking about the bills and stuff, I thought we'd take a break for a second. And I asked if this was okay, if you could describe kind of your process of discovery of yourself as a trans person.
So it was kind of a long road. When I was 12, I first came out as bi. And then I came out at 13, 14 as a lesbian. And then after that, I came out as non-binary. And now I've kind of gotten to where I am now as just like a trans man.
Okay.
And, I don't know. I'm on testosterone.
Okay.
Have been for a few months now, 2 or 3.
Right. So we may be faced with, going on 4, I think. We may be faced with having to go out of state for medical care.
Okay.
So we're still, who knows? The ACLU and some other organizations are going to fight these new laws in court.
ACLU Oklahoma, ACLU nationwide, and Freedom Oklahoma, I think, is what I want to say.
Great.
So
are trying to sue these people. So
great.
Hopefully that goes well.
But how do you feel about your future?
I mean, it's scary because I don't know how much worse things are going to get.
Yeah.
They've already tried to pass some laws that would ban it for adults.
Right. In Texas, that was a threat. I don't know if that went through, but yeah. I might have to move out of the state eventually, which I don't want to because I really love it here and I want to be here for the trans kids that can't move. Yeah, it sounds like you're kind of a support for them.
Yeah, for sure. And it's important to see trans adults thriving for little kids. I know that's helped me a lot was to see these trans people that are genuinely happy. Yeah,
when you mentioned that the kids who were being kind of bullied were homeschooled, that kind of set a little bit of alarm off in my head. I wonder about that sometimes, kids being isolated and not part of the larger culture, the conversations in the larger culture.
I know people who are bullied out of school and still have these people that are finding them elsewhere, and it's just really scary.
Yeah.
Talk about your homeschool without mentioning any names or anything, but talk a little bit about your homeschool co-op experience.
Oh, God.
Moss and Moss's brother both were.
Is that a bunch of parents teaching?
Right.
Okay.
It was very much that.
But it was Christian.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I know lots of different models of that, and sometimes it can work really well. Sometimes it can be very isolating.
And I think it did work well for a while until Moss kind of started discovering themselves. And Moss is opinionated, and we've always encouraged Moss to think for himself and to speak up.
Yeah.
If they see something they think's not right, or if somebody says something that's not right, speak up. And so he's done that. and it caused it. We saw some conflict at the homeschool co-op.
Even before I was out, because I have
Like with other kids or with the parents? Or
kids and parents.
Kids and teachers,
Okay.
yeah, and parents.
Even before I was out, my aunts are lesbians, so
Okay.
I've always been kind of defensive about that.
Okay.
And I knew I was queer while I was arguing for a lot of this, because I would have these arguments. It was like once a week on Mondays, and there was this one girl who I will not say her name, but she was not nice, but she was like not nice in like a nice way. She would be like, "I love you, but you're going to hell."
Oh, so passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like really difficult because like I can't be mad at her because she wasn't just like calling me slurs.
Sure.
But she was like not nice.
Yeah.
And I would have these arguments like every week at lunchtime. I would be like, well, maybe queer people should be able to get married. And she'd be like, no! The Bible says this, this, and this. And she could never find anything to back up why trans people shouldn't be allowed to exist.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so why can't people identify as a gender? And she'd be like, I'll get back to you on that. And then she'd bring in some totally unrelated Bible verse, and I'd be like, okay, but what does that have to do with this? And she'd be like, I
So
don't
you
know.
were really being very pointed with her, and she didn't really have an argument.
No, she didn't.
Okay.
And she was getting all of this from her parents.
Yeah.
And I knew her parents. Well, one of them. And I don't know. They were both like real religious.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you're very strong and you're obviously very empowered, which is great. I can see how that would affect other people who maybe are shyer, who have less experience, and who are less empowered. Yeah. So
Yeah,
sometimes
for sure.
that stuff can go really deeply.
And I have like random people coming out to me like very often, like random kids.
Right.
Who are like, I may be the first person they've come out to.
Right.
Because
right.
they can tell that I'm like open and queer.
Yeah.
And,
And
like,
comfortable.
yeah.
Yeah. And happy. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And how unfortunate that anybody would feel otherwise.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So did you stay in that school or?
I did for a while, but I eventually left it because I didn't have any friends. I had like one or two.
Okay.
And most of them just like did not like me. Everyone was talking crap about me, saying that I was dating my other friend just because I was queer. We were not dating. But
So you're 2 years out of that school now.
yeah, good riddance.
Yeah. So we're at this end of the school, very tip end of the school year now, and this is the second year that Moss has been just totally homeschooled.
Okay, great.
Doing a computerized learning.
Okay. To keep you up with state standards.
Oh yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. I heard there's some pretty good programs out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've got a good one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're happy with it.
Yeah, and if you're like in a public school setting or the private one that you were just talking about where it's like a co-op of parents, if there's so much antagonism, where does the learning come in? You know, it's
Especially because it was Christian, so like we weren't allowed to take any science classes there because it would be like really. I mean, they had science classes, but my mom was like, "You are not going in those because it was not science."
Oh no! But very, very famously, old scientists, you know, that built our whole scientific tradition, were very Christian, and the reason why they were doing science was about the glory of God. Actually, so this schism that we have between science and religion it's artificial. It's artificial.
My brother one time, he was like obsessed with dinosaurs for a little while, and he was talking about, you know, however long ago the earth was made and dinosaurs and all that, and then his teacher was like, no, dinosaurs were on Noah's Ark, blah blah blah, and he was like,
yeah,
no.
right. There's some eye rolling going on right there.
So
yeah, I know. Yeah. The timeline doesn't quite fit there.
Well, sure it does. You just have to realize that the scientists are all making mistakes in the way that they're dating these fossil records.
Sure.
So
yeah, every single one of them is wrong.
You see ducks out there?
Baby ducks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love ducks.
Same.
I used to keep domestic ducks, and they're really fun. They're cute little creatures. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're considerably more charming than domestic turkeys.
Oh, yeah.
We raised those when I was a kid. So
I-
we had ducks, turkeys, chickens.
Yeah.
I think that
Well,
was.
turkeys just get so big. I mean, they're just so giant.
Well, and they're so dumb.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean,
It's
they're
true.
just dumb animals.
There's something about the smell of turkeys I don't like either. Like, I can handle ducks and geese and chickens, but there's something about turkeys that I just don't like.
Yeah.
I do like turkey sandwiches, though.
I just like sandwiches, man.
Okay. Yeah, just put something between bread and
Yep.
I know. Simple. I'm simple as well.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about you. So we got connected because you have kind of a self-defense course that you're running. Can you talk about that?
We have a firearms training
Yeah.
business is what we have, and so I got involved in. I'll say what a lot of folks that I run into say. I've been shooting all my life, right?
Okay.
So I started shooting .22 rifles when I was a kid, and
Plinking, as they call it.
yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. You know, just shooting at stuff rather than
Yep.
shooting stuff.
Yep.
But so
Fishing, right? It doesn't
yep.
mean you're going to catch anything.
Right. Hunting doesn't mean you're going to kill anything. That's why they call it hunting instead of
That's
killing.
true. That's true.
So anyway, yeah, I'd been shooting all my life, and then in about 2008, I went to my first actual pistol shooting class and started to find
Okay.
out just how little I knew about all the stuff I thought I knew.
Okay.
Right. It's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know.
Do you want to say the organization or? Does it matter?
It's not really important, but I will, because it's a friend of mine now who runs it, and it's called Oklahoma Shooting Skills.
Okay,
right, and
great.
it's here in Oklahoma City, and I learned so much
Wonderful.
from those folks.
Yeah.
And then
I've also learned from individual instructors who were affiliated with the NRA. And I'm not a big fan of the NRA for various reasons, but they have some incredible instructors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, they absolutely do. So anyway, I took their whole sort of plethora of courses and went to guest instructors that Oklahoma Shooting Skills had come in and did lots of stuff with them for many years, and then started branching out to other instructors. And
What's the status of carrying here, by the way? Is it
so
open carry?
Oklahoma is
Constitutional?
a constitutional carry
Okay.
state. You
Alaska
can,
is the same.
yeah, you can carry concealed if you're 21 years old, and there's
Can you explain that, by the way? What constitutional?
Yeah,
carry is?
absolutely. If you're 21 years old in the state of Oklahoma, or you're 18 and a member of the armed forces or the National Guard, I think, and there's no legal reason keeping you from carrying or owning a weapon, right? So if, for instance, you had been civilly committed to a psychiatric hospital,
Okay.
you can't.
Sure.
Right. It
Sure.
makes it illegal for you to carry. If you're a felon, a convicted felon, you are not permitted legally to carry, right, or to
Okay.
even own a firearm.
Okay.
And that's not just an Oklahoma thing. That's a
Yeah.
federal thing.
Yeah.
Now, whether that, I'll just tell you, I don't think that's right. I think if you go to prison and you do your time,
Right, pay your debt.
Your debt is paid.
Yes.
And when you come out of prison, you should have your rights reinstated.
Yeah.
But
And we also have an unjust system that targets particular people for
no kidding.
right. So
Yeah.
so
There are
it's-
people
yeah.
who are felons who could legally. I mean, now could, if they were not felons, they could legally own a cannabis store here in Oklahoma and sell as much marijuana as they wanted. Whereas you, at one point,
but
it
not
was
protect themselves.
Right, yeah, they could, exactly. But if they sold as much marijuana as they wanted back in, say, 1985, that is a felony rap,
Right. Yeah,
So,
and it's so terrible too because it kept people from going to school.
oh yeah.
I mean, it really ruined everybody's lives. So thankfully we've gotten over that. Although I must say, here in Oklahoma City, I've traveled all around the U.S. This is the most dispensaries I've ever seen.
We have so many.
So many.
We have people who are opening dispensaries in the bathrooms of
Okay.
dispensaries.
All right.
Yeah. It's
the special
amazing.
boutique within the dispensary.
there literally are no corners
Yes.
on major thoroughfares in Oklahoma City that do not have a dispensary.
We just
at
had
this
one
point.
open right by our neighborhood.
Oh yeah. There's one right by where I walk my dogs.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
walk by it and smell weed. weeds. So
Well, if that's what people want, then that's what they got. So
and
totally.
by all means, I mean it.
Does the state tax it, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, but we defeated. We actually did not legalize recreational use.
Okay.
So it's all medical use here.
Yeah.
But yes, we tax it, and we sell a lot of cannabis here.
Right.
And we have ended that particular form of prohibition.
It's so ridiculous.
Sort of, and it's so easy to get a medical card.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Basically, if you've got some money and you can say I'm anxious, you can get yourself a medical marijuana card.
And who cares?
So.
That's
right. Yeah,
once
sure
again,
don't.
it's people's own business what they do, and if it's not hurting other people.
Yeah.
So getting back to
the business,
the training.
The business. So lots of classes, lots of learning. Lots of friends who came and said,
So
hey,
you kind of paid your dues.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Sounds like it.
But I will say I'm not going to stop paying my dues.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep, in the last 2 months, I've had 3 classes that I've attended. So there's another group that's really good that I've been training with. It's called Palisade Training Group out of Texas. And so I attended a gunfighting in crowds class with them. I attended a church security
Oh my goodness.
team instructor / leader course with them. That was a 2-day course.
Wow.
I just did a course with Surefire. Surefire is a manufacturer of suppressors and flashlights.
I've seen the name.
Yeah, you've
somewhere.
seen Surefire flashlights, I'm sure. Anyway, they are pretty active in the shooting world because it's all kind of interrelated.
Yes.
And they're putting together a master coach class. So I actually sat in on the beta version of that over the weekend.
Okay.
Did 8 hours
So
of
like
that.
a testing of how they're going
Right, yeah.
launch
The
this.
gentleman who's developing it is testing it on groups of instructor type folks.
Yeah.
And so I got to sit in on that, which was an enormous pleasure, and I learned a ton there.
This is a little bit of a personal question, and I hope it's okay that I'm answering. How do you relate in those spaces as somebody who is the parent of a trans person and does go to the Capitol? And I'm assuming you're around a lot of leftists. I'm not saying you're a leftist, but you're probably around a lot of liberals and leftists. That the gun crowd, I'm not going to, not all gun owners are right wing, but there is definitely that.
There's trend.
There's definitely
something
a
of a trend.
Yeah.
And
so how do you deal with that? Or does it ever come up? Or
it sort of comes up. It probably comes up on Facebook more than anything else, because honestly, in converse,
do you get trolled, as they say?
A little bit sometimes,
All right.
a little bit. But the other part of that is I might troll a little bit myself.
Okay.
So honestly, I mean, because I have an acquaintance who fancies themselves as a sort of Christian crusader a little bit, and they
A crusader.
Yeah. They put a Facebook blurb, I don't know what you call, a little video where somebody was talking about how demons in the Bible characterize themselves as they them.
Okay.
Really? Show me where that actually, I mean, where is that in the Bible? Because there's no place in the Bible that demons ever did that. Now, there were a couple of places in the Gospels where demons said we and us, right? They referred to themselves in the plural, but they, them is not plural when used by a trans person. It refers to them, their singular person, right?
Sure.
And this is a long-standing tradition in the English language that you can say they,
and
it means a person, right?
Yeah.
But so my acquaintance, my friend.
And also our English is a living language.
Yeah.
So even though they, them has been around for a long time as a singular, we can also change the language.
Yeah.
And add terms.
And we do all the time. We just don't always have to frickin' argue about it, right? So anyway, I took this person to town. I mean, I just ran roughshod over them over the course of a few hours. So I do my share. In other words, to illustrate, I do my share of trolling as well, right?
So for you, it's not like all that taxing. You just have fun with it. Okay.
And I do. And I like people. themselves. A group of people, maybe not so much sometimes, but you know, an individual person, I think we all have value. And I told Moss not long ago, I don't like stop being friends with people or stop communicating with people because they have a different point of view than me. Because how are things going to get better if we don't talk to each other?
Sure.
You know, how are things going to get better if I say, oh, you believe that? I'm not your friend anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not that person who's ever going to say, if you believe such and such, just, you know, using Facebook as an example, because I'm fairly active on Facebook. If you believe such and such, just unfriend me now. How do we continue our community? How do we gain by living in an echo chamber?
Yeah, right? That's something that allies and people who are in your position, your parent, and also an ally to the community, that can take on. For individual trans people, that's obviously a different kind of task.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's how I am. I'll be like, nope, get out of my life.
Right.
I don't want to deal with you.
Exactly. Because you have to have boundaries.
Yeah.
It's good to
Agreed.
have boundaries.
Yeah, and I agree, because I think otherwise it can be harmful.
Exactly.
Right?
And those people are looking to harm trans people. They're not looking to learn anything.
Right.
They're not looking to understand.
I've
just
had
want
my
to harm
fair
people.
share of conversations with people and I'm like, well, actually, and like try to actually change their opinions, but they don't want to. They just want to argue and feel good about themselves. And
Right. And I will make exceptions to that rule about keeping contact with people.
You get your limits as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
At some point, I have to stop, because if a person will not engage in dialogue, but rather engages only in rhetoric, I reach a point where I'm done. And I'm a very, actually, pretty patient person.
Yeah.
I'm a retired psych nurse, by the way.
So, okay.
Yeah,
it seems like it too. You're just very laid back.
I am.
You know, kind of. What I would consider, I'm going to say it again, like old Oklahoma, like kind of laid back.
I am. Now, there are circumstances where I'm not so laid back. So if somebody tries to fuck with Moss, I'm going to jack them up.
There you go.
So,
and
that's no secret to you. I mean, we've had that conversation. So.
As it should be. You know, parents, need to be there for their kids.
Yeah. So
the parents who aren't there for their kids, that's who I'm like, what are you doing? You know? Yeah.
And it's been clear to me for all of my adult life that I can't rely on anybody else to defend me or my family or protect us from people who want to harm us. And it doesn't make, even before Moss realized who they were, right? Moss was shooting with me. I mean, Moss started shooting with me when you were 6, 5, something like that. I mean, you were little.
There.
Yeah.
You're little. Moss started shooting 22s at the indoor range.
Yeah. And 22s are fun.
Oh, they're
so
They're
fun.
tons of fun. And I wish I had more time to play with them.
Yeah.
I just don't. And so that's a separate discussion. Anyway, so, I've known for a long time that it's my job, to make sure that my family's safe and to make sure that they know how to keep themselves safe after I'm gone, which, that's going to happen.
And you're
at
not
some
always
point.
around.
No.
No. And, Moss is growing up and, taking responsibility for their life.
Right. Right. And at some point, 10, 12, 14 years in the future, Moss is going to move out. After Moss finds a job, all that stuff. So now we're just joking around. But the reality is, and I'm not the only person who's ever realized that.
Yeah,
that your safety is your own responsibility. The police come to take a report.
Yes.
And the police is
after the fact.
After the fact, it's very uncommon for police officers to interrupt a crime and apprehend a criminal. Right.
I've seen videos where the police have not done anything.
Yeah. Because police are there and.
I was gonna talk about there is a crossover. There's a documented crossover between white supremacist groups and some police departments. I mean, that's just the research that's been done. I was going to talk a little bit about what Erin Paulette said. So there's these two groups. She runs Operation Blazing Sword, which came up after the Pulse Massacre. She's from Florida, so you know that was part of her community. And then also Pink Pistols, which has been going on for a long time, and it's LGBT community oriented, but everybody is welcome in it.
Yeah.
So it's not just LGBT plus people. And for Operation Blazing Sword, it's like a introduction to firearms. Like if you've never been around them and you're like curious and that sort of thing. And then Pink Pistols are more of a shooting club.
Yes. Yes.
So
So I'm actually a volunteer
okay.
for Operation Blazing Sword. I'm
Okay.
a registered volunteer for them, and we've done some. Moss actually has accompanied me on some Operation Blazing
great.
Sword. I
And
don't
you
know.
just-
I don't even know what we call them. Volunteer missions.
So what do you do? What do you do?
So people say, "Hey, I want to know about shooting,"
Yeah.
or "Can you take me? I know you know how to shoot. Can you take
Right.
me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, come on."
Yeah.
And so we just supply firearms and ammunition and some teaching
Yeah.
and some safety. And I'm a member of a local gun club, and I'm allowed to bring guests there. To,
Great.
You know, a couple
Great.
at a time, 2 at a time is our maximum number of guests. So I don't do groups that are larger than that. And we just take them out and go shoot a little
Is
bit.
this an indoor or outdoor range?
It's an outdoor
Okay,
range
wonderful.
here in Oklahoma City. And so we've done several of those. We don't have a Pink Pistols that's active
Okay.
in Oklahoma City, but I am talking with friends about getting one going.
Yep.
I don't think it's my role to like head a Pink Pistols
Sure.
because it's not my community.
Sure.
Even though I'm an ally or whatever I am.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I am, but
Oh, I'm sure that there's some queer and trans people who would take that on, though.
Yeah,
Especially,
yeah.
especially in cooperation with you, since you
Right.
are a very skilled person.
right.
Yeah.
So and that's what I would love to do is like
Yeah.
serve as an advisor
Yeah.
and help them
Exactly.
work up like activities because I got lots of ideas about fun stuff to do.
And that's another thing Erin was talking about is that not to characterize you as conservative, but she's actually pairing up people who are conservative gun owners who just want to teach people. Doesn't matter what your sexuality is or your gender or your political background. They just really want to teach people safety and how to shoot and that sort of thing. And so it's a nice nexus of people coming from different places in life and different experiences. To share this skill and self-defense, and what an American thing to do too.
I know.
Right?
That's
Yep.
interesting.
Right?
It really is.
Yeah. So I think it's great. All of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's what we're doing. So the business is it's not just for that folks in that LGBTQIA plus space, but it
it's a focus.
But
Yes.
it is a focus.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Because I want people who are most at risk to be most able to defend themselves,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Right.
That's where, I go to classes, and I say this all the time. I go to classes, and I look around, and there's a bunch of mics there.
Right.
I mean, there's a bunch of dudes there
Yeah.
who are around my age, and they're white, and there's occasionally some women there, but mostly it's just guys, and
Yeah.
we're there, and we know how to shoot already, and we're not the
Probably
ones who are.
ex-police, ex-military.
Yeah, there's some of that, which I'm not either of those.
Yeah.
But there are people there who don't need the skills as much as the people that we're trying
Right,
to reach.
right.
We want to train people who need to be able to defend themselves, the people who are
Yes.
most likely
Right.
to be criminally victimized.
Right.
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 But
And it would be hard for them to maybe go into just a regular gun club and ask for these things because of maybe how they look or how they act or some preconceived notions about them.
right.
Yeah.
And because it's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, it is
It is.
scary for somebody who looks different
Right.
to show up in a spot
It's
like
even
that.
scary for cisgendered women to just show up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. We actually have a friend who came to one of our first classes, and they were afraid to go like to a big box sporting goods store to buy ammunition for the
Okay.
class. And they said, "Hey, can you go with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, we'll go with you." And
And those places are so not intimidating. Not when you compare them to the small little boutique places.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So we got there, and the person who actually rang up we just walked back and picked up ammunition off the shelf, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
didn't even talk to anybody. We just walked back there and grabbed our ammunition.
It's like going grocery shopping.
Went up to check out, and the person who checked us out was non-binary, as far as I could tell. What would you say?
They were
Moss?
queer for sure.
Okay, there you go. All right.
They're androgynous.
The radar was going.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was walking up and I was like, oh well, this should make everybody feel better. I don't know. I felt fine with it anyway.
Yeah.
But I hope I fit in okay with the folks who come to my class.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact that I fit in okay with the folks that I see in other classes, you know. Now, do I have heated discussions with some of them? Yeah.
So you do in person?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Some of my. Yeah. I mean, I won't say that I think I've not lost friends over it, but I have pissed people off, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing that happens is if it's like on an online thing where Moss's mom can see it, they'll just jump in there and dogpile that person.
Okay. Well, you were saying that your wife, who is now taking care of my sweet dog, Mr. Cooper, they're out on a walk, which is great, is even more of a fierce advocate of Moss than you are. And how does that? What does that look like? I'm curious because you're pretty strong.
So yeah, I think I am, but you know when we get in these discussions with my friends, so I'll post something, one of my friends will come on and say, yeah, but look at this. Like I posted something about drag, you know, and it being an important art form, and there's no reason that kids should not be exposed to drag if it's okay with their parents. Right?
Yeah,
I just think it's
age
cool.
appropriate.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Drag is one of the most amazing communities that I've ever been in, and it's so loving and
it's on
so
TV
incredible.
too. It's not like it's it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum.
And I know so many people who are so kind to children who are drag artists, and they know how to interact with children, and they've never been inappropriate with children.
Right.
Because they're just people who happen to be interested in a specific art form.
Performers.
Yeah.
And the more drag shows I go to, the more entertained I am. I will say the first few that I went to, I was like, Jesus.
Well, there's a little bit of a language to it.
What time is it?
You know, there's a little bit of a
really
language
is.
to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
to get the jokes, you know.
Exactly. And truly, it gets funnier and funnier all the time.
And I'm sure that they can see you coming. They're like, who's this?
I get that a little bit too.
I bet you do.
We've befriended a lot of drag artists.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're out at the protests too, right?
Yes, we've seen a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they see me.
Yeah.
And
I bet they love you.
man, there are a couple that do, and I love them too.
Yeah, totally.
They're good people.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they are people.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we struggle with in our state right now. But so I get in these conversations with people, and Moss and Moss's mom sometimes dogpile on them. And one of my friends came up to me at a big conference I was at down in Texas a few months ago, and and he had unfriended me on Facebook.
Oh.
Right? And I was like, man, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what exactly happened, but I'm sorry. And he said, oh, listen, it's not that I don't want to be friends with you. We just can't be friends on Facebook because your family's just dogpiling me. Right? He said, but the same thing happens in my own family. I can't be friends with all of my own family because they do the same thing. I was like, I totally get it.
I mean, the thing is, though, is you're defending your child.
He knows.
You know, so of course you're going to do that. Of course you're going to do that.
And the first time I ever was he's a respected instructor in my world, right?
Okay.
Very respected.
Yeah.
This is a guy who knows a lot about people keeping armed people from killing them.
Yeah.
Right. This is a guy who's hunted armed felons, and so he knows a lot. And I have
so like a bounty hunter kind of.
No, like a police officer in bad gang.
Okay. Sure.
Activity stuff. So I don't know how to characterize it accurately because I don't live in that world.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's very well respected, and he knows me, and he knows what I do, and he surprisingly it's kind of surprising to me in my community how many people are really pretty cool with
Yeah.
what we're doing. I
Well,
mean,
it's about autonomy.
yeah,
right?
it really is.
It's about freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean those are what we consider American values. Not always meeting it, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, and so because on the face of it, that Second Amendment community can be off-putting
Yeah.
to people who
Right.
are different,
Right.
because there are so many people that are just like me. But the time has come for everybody to get under the tent. You know, the time is here. I mean, I think of myself, and as far as I know, I'm the only person in this area that's doing anything like
Yeah.
this. But I won't be the last.
Yeah.
I might be the first right here, but I'm not going to be the last.
But it's okay. I mean, things start small, and you're obviously the person who's very equipped to do that.
I hope so.
Okay, so we took a little bit of a break there after talking about self-defense, which I gotta say I love that, and it actually worries me that sometimes the Democrats keep pushing this gun control issue because part of that is like red flag laws and that sort of thing, and that could. My worry is that will affect people who are vulnerable first.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's very easy, and we've done this in the past, we've characterized queer and trans people as being mentally ill, even though those terms have been taken off the books
Yeah.
from the medical associations, but that can easily turn around.
Right, but and trans has not been off the books that long.
No, not that long at all.
I mean, I saw that change happen during my career
Right.
as a psychiatric nurse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I worry about that.
I will tell you that my belief is that all gun control is racist
Oh,
and
yeah.
classist
Oh, yeah.
at its core.
Oh, yes.
And I guarantee you that if every gun is taken from every citizen in this country, there are people in this country who still will be protected by men with guns.
Of course.
You know,
Of
and
course.
the rest of us will just have to
And-
live with that.
And look where the suppression is coming from. It's coming from the state.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You
this
can-
gun control issue it's pretty complex. So
we can
quit
be
doing
sure that
Democrats.
anybody that wants to implement gun control has something in store for us.
Yeah, and I totally agree that it's racist and classist.
Yeah.
So earlier we were talking about some of the negative effects that this legislation and kind of the social climate has on younger people, and I was wondering if there's any kind of organizing going on. I've talked to another youth activist down in Texas, and they were saying that they were the regional GSA coordinator. And I was wondering if you've been involved in any of that sort of thing.
I've never been with the GSA
Okay.
because I'm homeschooled, so
Okay.
it's not super available to me.
Sure.
I go to a lot of queer events, like Queer Joy, which is like a group in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Is that specifically for LGBT youth?
For queer people in general, but
Okay.
youth are allowed.
We see little bitty kids whose parents bring them.
Okay.
We see older folks. Just everybody's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
You know?
Great.
Which is really great, especially for queer kids to see queer adults thriving, which has always been really important to me.
Right.
Because it's good to know that that's possible.
Right.
Like, as a queer child, like, you can be happy.
Right.
Um,
And there's been kind of you mentioned when we were on break that the GSAs have kind of changed their name.
yeah, it used to be the Gay Straight Alliance.
Yeah.
It has now changed. There's a movement for it to be changing to the Gender Sexuality Alliance or something
Okay.
like that.
So it's more inclusive.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
timely. Okay.
Which I think is really important because, like, there's more than gay and straight.
Right. Yeah, there's whole spectrums.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of language that I'm learning in this project that I did not know existed anymore. Like demigender.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
that asexual and aromantic are also part of the queer community, which I
Yeah.
did not know about. I did not know
For
about
sure.
that.
Yeah, I have plenty of ace and
Yeah.
aromantic friends.
Right.
So.
Right. For you, I was wondering how does that sort of proliferation of new language help? Because I think older people might be a little confused about that.
It's really nice to be able to put a label to things.
Yeah.
That's always really was important to me. It's not as important anymore because, like, I don't even label my sexuality anymore. I just label it queer so I can just, like, you know.
I love queer too.
Yeah, it's a great word.
Yeah.
It's a great word. I love queer.
It's kind of a shortcut too. It's just like,
and then you're not like constricted,
Yeah.
so you don't have to worry about like, oh, now I have to come out again,
right,
which
right.
I've done many a time.
So for you, it isn't important, but how do you think it's important for your peers?
It's, well, for one, it's way easier to explain your sexuality when you have a word for it. You can just say, oh, this is what I am, instead of just like having to lay out everything.
Right, and go through your history and, yeah.
And it's really helpful for finding community.
Okay, yeah.
That can relate to your experiences.
Right.
And, I don't know, labels just make people happy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So for you, you're kind of beyond labels in a way. You don't really use as many, but for other people, their labels are very important for them because it really helps them define each other and also find community.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I know there's a whole bunch of language too that I don't even know about. So
yeah, I mean,
it's pretty complex.
Yeah, it's more language is being invented every day, so I don't even keep up with all of it. But
yeah, it's interesting because you say invented, which is true. You know, people are coming up with these terms, and I think older people feel a little bit bitter or like, oh, that's fake or phony or something like that.
Yeah, no,
but it's just descriptive. It sounds like
it really.
What do you think about that, old man?
It's authentic human experience.
Yeah, there you go.
So, as a person who saw white and colored drinking fountains in the '60s, right?
Yeah.
I think we're just going through a period of time where we are recognizing that people are people are people are people, you know, and we did that in the 60s and 70s with the racial division, or we tried to. I mean,
it
honestly,
still exists,
it's still there. I mean, I mean,
it's
obviously,
entrenched
in so many ways.
Yeah.
But I think, by keeping dialogue open, by recognizing humanity in people, that's how we fix that. You know, that's how we get better at it. You know?
That's why I worry about these laws too, because it really cuts off the dialogue about things. You know, when you impose these laws.
Yes, it others people. Is what it does, and we've done an excellent job. I mean, we're experts at that.
It's even criminalizing some people for just being
absolutely.
who they are.
Yeah. You know, it takes us back to the. I don't know what Moss.
So many baby geese.
Oh, there's a bunch of baby geese. They're
so cute.
It takes us back. It sets us back. It doesn't take us back, because taking us back makes it sound pleasant, and it's not. It sets us back as a society to do the kind of things that we're doing in our state to make.
I thought we were making some progress, and I don't think we're making progress.
Yeah, we're going back right now.
We've got some backwards thinking people. You know, and those backwards thinking. Sorry, Moss. I'll let you talk. I promise. Those backwards thinking people happen to have the talking feather now, or whatever they've got. You
or
know,
the power.
It is the power.
Yeah.
And so politicians have too much power in this country. And if you think about what our founders wanted, I don't think they ever envisioned professional politicians.
Right.
I don't think they ever envisioned somebody who was going to get elected to an office and go to Washington, D.C. and be there for 40 or 50 years and line their pockets with whatever they line their pockets with.
It's amazing how they go in like middle class and they end up being rich.
Yeah.
Fabulously wealthy, not only in terms of money, but in terms of influence.
Yeah, and then they're on boards, and they, etc.
Yeah, and so we just, I think we, as a country, need to fix that. We need to take back our representation and get people there who actually represent us, and have them not stay for forever.
Yeah, you know? I'm totally into term limits. I mean, some of these politicians sit in those jobs for too long.
I'm totally into radical term limits. Like, you can serve a term of office at some level, and then you're done. You're just
Okay.
you're done for the rest of your life. You know, I think at this point we'd be better represented if we just picked people at random and said, okay, you go do this, you go do that for 4 years.
So more like a service, a responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Moss?
Yeah, sorry, Moss.
You piped in for a second
Ooh,
there.
what was I gonna say? I think that the reason that we're kind of going backwards right now is because we were like going so quickly, and I think it scares people. I think it's
That's smart and perceptive, Moss.
scary.
I think they're going to be scared anyway,
yeah,
no matter if
absolutely.
it's slow or if it's
right.
fast.
I think the fact that we are making progress is really scary to a lot of these older politicians because it means the end of what they're doing.
Oh, yes.
It's engendered a reaction.
And
Yeah.
they
Well,
know
it should be the end of what they're doing
Yeah,
if what they're doing is
absolutely.
harmful.
right.
You know?
And I think that means we're doing good.
Yeah.
Like if they're so scared that they're like, oh, we need to do all of these laws that are going to kill trans kids
Yeah. Yeah.
because they know
I
that
think,
we're the end of what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think their intent is to run people who are different out of this state.
Oh,
they
yes.
want us. They want. Them
And I'll
to
tell you,
go
I've
to-
met people who are considering leaving. Yeah.
Oh,
We know
so
so
who
many
have left.
people.
I know people who have
Okay.
left.
Yeah.
You know, we
And what a loss to the community. I mean,
Honestly,
because
yeah.
those people were connected to other people.
yeah. We had a person who was signed up for our first class, and during the week before the class, that person reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm leaving Oklahoma. I don't. Now that I'm leaving Oklahoma, I don't feel like I need this ability anymore. So can I just pass this class tuition on to somebody else that I know that's staying?"
That's
and I was
cool.
like, "Sure, that's fine."
Wow.
And so that person came to class instead. But, you know, that's just one of the people that we know who are leaving. I've actually had a couple other people reach out to me for class and say, I'm leaving or I'm in another state now. Can I pay for somebody else in Oklahoma who needs it? And so we facilitated that.
Wow. That's intense.
It's interesting.
That's intense,
It's
yeah.
interesting. There have been, this has taken some turns that I never expected,
Yeah.
honestly.
You just totally surprised me. You blew my mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So-
Yeah, I wonder about networks like that are being set up, and I'm glad people are doing that. You know,
Oh yeah.
help people.
The thing about our community is
Yeah.
that we are used to looking out for each other.
Yeah,
Yep. And
We're used to being all the support that we have.
yeah,
resourceful.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
are some very resourceful people in this community.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's a really great place to end.
Okay, I agree.
And I so appreciate you coming here today to talk to me. You know, it's this word is always overused, but it's really brave. You know, you're a parent and you're a youngster, a minor who's a trans person, and I am going to pixelate you, but I really do think it's brave to do this, and the work that you're doing, and that you're a very out person, and that you're going to the Capitol and talking to people who you know are trying to harm you. I mean, they literally are trying to harm you.
We walk away from that building sometimes, and I'm just shaking my head and saying, "These motherfuckers."
Yeah,
You know, but
yeah. That should be their title instead of
yeah,
politician.
but what can you do besides show up?
Yeah.
And say, "Hey,
Yeah.
no, this is not right."
Yeah,
You know.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, thanks for doing it in a hard place to do that. You know, so all right. All right, thank you all. Thank you all. You are my last interview here in Oklahoma, and I think this is a great one.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm off to Missouri tomorrow. Missouri.
yeah, Missouri. Yeah, you have to say it right.
Sody, soda.
Missouri. Yeah. Sody pops.
Sody pop. I don't know. Anyway.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, and thank you to your wife for taking great care of my dog. I'm
Yeah.
sure he's
We'll
having
have to
a
go
great
find
time.
him.
I'm sure
And
he's having a great
hopefully
time.
he hasn't eaten any of those baby geese.
Well, he loves ladies, so I'm sure he's having a good time. Oh, I see them now. Oh, there's a whole big family of them.
There's
they're
like
so
I bet
cute.
there's a dozen of them.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. There's a little lake out here. I wanted to film that way, but it was very bright, so it was
there's Mom.
making us all dark. Hello.
Hey, we're done. Okay.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Great.
Cool.
That was great.
Yeah.